The space around Earth was quiet that night, just like any other night. But at the International Space Agency's main listening station in Nevada, things were about to change forever. Captain James Walker sat at his desk, sipping his third coffee of the night shift. His eyes moved lazily across the multiple screens showing various deep space monitoring data. 20 years of space service had taught him that most nights were uneventful. But this night would be different. At exactly 3:47 a.m. Earth time, all the screens in the monitoring station began flashing red. The sudden change made Walker spill his coffee all over his uniform. "Sir," called out one of the technicians, "we're picking up a signal. It's like nothing we've ever seen before." Walker rushed to the main console, forgetting about his coffee-stained shirt. The signal was indeed unusual, strong, clearly artificial, and coming from the edge of the solar system, somewhere in the Kuiper Belt. "Run it through the decoder," Walker ordered, his heart beating faster. They had protocols for potential alien contact, but in all his years, they'd never had to use them. The decoder worked for several minutes while the room fell silent. Then, to everyone's surprise, clear English words appeared on the screen. "To the inhabitants of Earth, we are the Stellar Coalition Fleet. We are stranded. We need help. Our technology has failed. Please respond." Walker read the message 3 times to make sure he wasn't dreaming. He quickly pressed the emergency button, which would wake up every important person in the ISA. Within an hour, the control room was packed with officials, scientists, and military personnel. The message kept repeating, and now included detailed coordinates of the fleet's location. "It could be a trap," said General Thompson, who had flown in from Washington. "Or it could be genuine," Walker argued. "Look at these readings. There are definitely large objects at those coordinates. Hundreds of them." The room buzzed with urgent discussions. Scientists argued about the signal's authenticity. Military officers debated security protocols. But Walker kept staring at the screens, watching new data come in. More messages arrived, painting a clearer picture of the situation. The alien fleet consisted of 300 ships carrying almost 300,000 beings. They had been traveling through this sector when all their advanced drive systems mysteriously failed. Now they were stuck, drifting slowly in the cold outer reaches of the solar system. "Their ships are huge," reported one of the analysts. "The smallest one is about the size of a football field. The largest, well, it's bigger than anything we've ever built." A new message appeared. "Our life support systems are running on backup power. We have approximately 30 Earth days before they fail. We know you are less technologically advanced, but you are our only hope in this region of space." Walker couldn't help but smile at their description of humans as less technologically advanced. These aliens, whoever they were, clearly needed help, but they also seemed to look down on human capabilities. The debate in the control room continued for hours. Finally, ISA Director Roberts made the decision. "Captain Walker, send them a response. Tell them we're willing to help." Walker sat down at his console and carefully typed out humanity's first official message to an alien civilization. "This is Captain James Walker of the International Space Agency, Earth. We acknowledge your situation and are prepared to assist. Please share more details about your technical problems." The response came quickly. "Thank you, Captain Walker. We are transmitting technical specifications now. But we must warn you. Our technology may be too advanced for your people to understand." As the alien technical data began flooding their computers, Walker thought about humanity's history of solving problems. Often, the simplest solutions worked best. Maybe that's exactly what these advanced aliens needed. Simple solutions they'd forgotten about long ago. Looking at the growing excitement in the control room, Walker knew that humanity was about to face its biggest challenge yet. But he also knew that humans had a special talent for finding ways to fix things, no matter how impossible the situation seemed. The rescue mission would soon begin, and the aliens would learn that being technologically advanced wasn't everything. Sometimes you just needed good old human ingenuity. The next 48 hours at the International Space Agency were the busiest in its history. Captain Walker barely slept as teams of scientists and engineers rushed to organize Earth's first alien rescue mission. "We need the best minds on this," Director Roberts announced in the emergency meeting. "Get me Dr. Emma Reed." Dr. Reed was known worldwide for her work in experimental space technology. When the call came, she was testing new engines in her lab in Australia. She arrived at ISA headquarters just 12 hours later, her gray hair messy from the rushed journey. "Show me everything," she demanded, not even stopping to get coffee. Walker led her to the main lab where teams were studying the alien technical data. "Their ships use quantum drives," Dr. Reed said, her eyes wide as she looked at the diagrams. "The technology is beautiful, but something is draining all their power. It's like their advanced systems are being eaten away by something we can't see." The first visual contact with the aliens came through a specially set-up video link. The being on the screen looked almost like a tall, thin human, except for its blue-tinted skin and large eyes. It introduced itself as Chief Ambassador Nexus. "We are grateful for your response," Nexus said, its voice translated by a computer. "But time is running out. 3 more ships lost primary life support in the last day." Dr. Reed studied the alien's face on the screen. "Can you tell us exactly when your systems started failing?" "It began when we entered this region of your solar system," Nexus explained. "First, our main drives failed. Then backup systems. Now even simple power generators are struggling." Walker noticed something interesting. "But your communication systems still work perfectly." "Yes," Nexus replied. "Our simpler systems remain functional. But they're not enough to power our ships or life support." Dr. Reed suddenly sat up straight. "Captain, what if that's the key? Their simple systems still work, but complex ones fail." The next few hours were spent testing this theory. The aliens sent more data, and Earth scientists made a surprising discovery. While the aliens' quantum technology was being affected by the mysterious force, basic electrical systems continued to function normally. "We can't fix their advanced systems," Dr. Reed announced to the Emergency Council. "They're too complex, and we don't fully understand them. But maybe we don't need to." Walker caught on to her idea. "You're thinking we could use our own technology instead." "Exactly," she smiled. "Sometimes simpler is better." The aliens were skeptical when Earth presented this approach. Ambassador Nexus's face showed clear doubt. "Your primitive technology. Our ships are city-sized. Your rockets can barely reach your own moon. But our primitive technology still works in the area where you're stranded," Walker pointed out, "while your advanced systems are failing." Time was running out. More alien ships reported failing systems each hour. Their massive fleet, carrying hundreds of thousands of lives, was slowly dying in the cold darkness of space. Finally, Ambassador Nexus made the decision. "We cannot afford pride in this situation. What do you propose?" Dr. Reed laid out the initial plan. Earth would send up multiple ships with basic but reliable technology. They would test different methods of moving the alien vessels, starting with the smallest ones first. "We'll need help from every space agency on Earth," Walker said. "And we'll need it fast." The next few hours saw the biggest mobilization of global resources in human history. Space agencies from every nation offered help. Private space companies redirected their rockets. Engineers worldwide began adapting equipment for the rescue mission. Looking at all this activity, Walker felt a mix of pride and worry. They had just 30 days to save 300,000 alien lives. They would need to use technology that the aliens considered primitive, and they would need to do something that had never been done before: tow massive spaceships using simple machines. But as he watched Dr. Reed work with her team, already designing new systems and solving problems, he felt hopeful. Maybe being less advanced wasn't always a bad thing. Sometimes, the old ways were the best ways. The real work was about to begin, and humanity was ready to prove itself to the stars. In the large meeting room of the ISA, engineer Tom Richards stood in front of a group of alien and human scientists. On the screen behind him was a simple drawing that made the aliens look confused. "You want to use oil rig technology in space?" Ambassador Nexus asked slowly, as if making sure he heard correctly. "Exactly," Tom said with confidence. He pointed to his diagram. "We've been moving heavy things in the ocean for over 100 years. Space isn't so different. It's just another kind of sea." Captain Walker watched from the back of the room, hiding a smile. The aliens' expressions were priceless. They looked like someone had just suggested using a stone wheel on a spaceship. Dr. Reed stepped forward to support Tom's idea. "Look at these calculations. Basic chemical rockets, combined with modified oil rig towing systems, could work. The physics makes sense." The aliens whispered among themselves in their strange language. Finally, Ambassador Nexus spoke. "Our smallest ship weighs more than anything humans have ever moved in space." "True," Tom admitted, "but we're not trying to move it fast. We just need to move it enough to get out of this energy-dead zone. Slow and steady wins the race." The next few hours were spent explaining Earth's plan in detail. They would modify space shuttles with powerful chemical rockets. These would be connected to the alien ships using strong cables made from new carbon materials. Multiple shuttles would work together, like tugs moving a large ship. "We've already started building the equipment," Walker announced. "Every space agency on Earth is helping. The Chinese are making the cables. The Europeans are modifying their rockets. The Indians are preparing launch sites. Even private space companies are joining in." The aliens watched in surprise as videos showed the massive global effort. Factories worldwide were running day and night. Rockets were being prepared at every launch site. Thousands of people were working together to save the stranded fleet. "But how will you coordinate all this?" asked one of the alien engineers. "Our fleet has 300 ships." Dr. Reed pulled up another diagram. "We'll start with one ship, the smallest one. Once we prove it works, we'll scale up. We've already chosen our test subject." The screen showed a small alien ship, though it was still bigger than anything humans had ever built in space. It would be their first test case. The next day, the first modified human ships blasted off from launch sites around the world. They carried special equipment designed by Tom and his team. The plan was to attach these to the test ship and try to move it just a little bit. Walker watched from mission control as the human ships approached the alien vessel. It looked tiny next to the alien ship, like a rowboat next to a cruise liner. But sometimes size wasn't everything. "Beginning attachment procedure," reported one of the astronauts. Everyone held their breath as the first cables were connected. The aliens watched nervously as humans in spacesuits worked on their ship. Their advanced technology had failed them, and now they were putting their trust in what they saw as simple machines. "All cables secured," came the report. "Ready for first test." Tom gave the signal. The modified rockets fired up, their simple chemical engines glowing in the darkness of space. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, slowly, the sensors showed movement. The alien ship was moving. It was just a tiny bit, but it was definitely moving. The room burst into cheers. Even the aliens looked impressed. Ambassador Nexus turned to Walker with new respect in his large eyes. "It seems we may have underestimated your simple solutions." Walker nodded. "Sometimes the old ways are the best ways. Now, let's scale this up and save your fleet." As he watched the celebrations around him, Walker knew this was just the beginning. They had proved their idea could work, but they still had 299 more ships to save, and time was running out. But for the first time since this crisis began, he felt sure they would succeed. Humanity had taken its first step towards saving an alien civilization, and they had done it not with advanced technology, but with good old-fashioned human ingenuity. The success of moving the first alien ship had lifted everyone's spirits, but that feeling didn't last long. On day 12 of the rescue mission, alarms started blaring throughout the ISA control center. "Captain Walker." A young technician ran into the room, his face pale. We have an emergency. Multiple ships in the alien fleet are losing life support faster than expected. Walker rushed to the main screen, where red warning lights were flashing across the fleet diagram. What had been a 30-day timeline was now cut in half. They had only 15 days left to save nearly 300 ships. Dr. Reed and Tom rushed into the room moments later. Ambassador Nexus appeared on the video screen, his blue face showing clear signs of worry. "The energy drain is accelerating," the alien reported. "We don't understand why. 5 more ships just lost their backup systems. We have 40,000 people at immediate risk." Walker looked at the situation map. The ships in trouble were spread throughout the fleet. They couldn't move them all one at a time. It would take too long. "We need to change our approach," Dr. Reed said, quickly typing on her computer. "Tom, remember that crazy idea you had yesterday? The one about moving multiple ships at once?" Tom nodded. "The chain formation. But we didn't think it would work. It's too risky." "We don't have a choice anymore," Walker said firmly. "Explain the idea to everyone." Tom pulled up a new diagram on the main screen. "Instead of moving ships one by one, we link them together in chains. Like a train. One group of our rockets pulls the whole chain at once." The aliens looked scared at this suggestion. "The strain on the cables would be enormous," one of their engineers protested. "That's why we'll use the new carbon cables," Tom explained. "They're stronger than anything we've used before. The Chinese factories have been making them nonstop." There was no time for long debates. Walker made the decision. "We're doing it. Start connecting the ships immediately." The next few hours were chaos. Human spacewalkers rushed to link ships together. Every available rocket was launched to help. The whole world watched as humanity attempted its biggest space rescue ever. "First chain is ready," reported an astronaut after 6 hours of work. 10 alien ships linked together. "Start the pull," Walker ordered. Everyone watched nervously as the rockets fired up. The cables went tight. For a moment, it seemed like they might break. But they held. Slowly, the chain of alien ships began to move. "It's working," Tom shouted. But their celebration was cut short by new alarms. 2 ships in Sector 7 just lost all power. A technician reported. "Life support failing." Walker grabbed the radio. "Redirect rescue ships 4 and 7 to those vessels. Begin emergency evacuation procedures." The next few hours were a blur of activity. While some teams worked on moving the ship chains, others rushed to evacuate the failing vessels. Human shuttles, designed to hold 6 people, were now cramming in 20 or more aliens each. Dr. Reed worked with the alien engineers to set up emergency power systems using basic human generators. They weren't pretty, but they worked. "The simple technology is still functioning," she reported. "We can keep people alive with it, even if we can't power the whole ships." By the end of that day, they had moved 50 ships to safety and evacuated 30 more. But they still had over 200 vessels to save, and now only 2 weeks to do it. Ambassador Nexus spoke to Walker privately that evening. "We were wrong about humans," the alien admitted. "Your people have shown incredible bravery and skill today." Walker looked at the tired teams still working around him. "We're not giving up, but we need to figure out what's causing this energy drain. If it keeps getting worse." He didn't need to finish the sentence. Everyone knew what was at stake. 300,000 alien lives depended on them solving this mystery, and time was running out faster than ever. As another alarm sounded in the distance, Walker took a deep breath. The real race against time had begun. Day 15 of the rescue mission brought the biggest challenge yet. Walker was woken at 3 a.m. by emergency alarms. The largest ship in the alien fleet, carrying 50,000 people, had just lost its main life support systems. "How long do they have?" Walker asked as he rushed into the control room, still putting on his uniform jacket. 6 hours at most, Dr. Reed answered, her eyes fixed on the data screens. "The backup systems are failing too. We can't evacuate that many people in time." The huge alien ship floated in space like a dying city. It was 20 times larger than the biggest human space station. Normal rescue methods wouldn't work fast enough. What if we try something crazy? Tom spoke up from his workstation. Really crazy. Walker nodded. At this point, they had nothing to lose. Tell us. Tom pointed to a diagram of the massive ship. We can't move it in time. We can't evacuate it. But what if we turn the whole ship into a giant battery? Dr. Reed's eyes widened as she understood the idea. Using the ship's metal hull as a conductor. Basic electrical principles. They quickly explained the plan to Ambassador Nexus. The alien's large eyes blinked rapidly as he listened. You want to run electrical current through our ship's hull, using your primitive generators. The alien couldn't hide his disbelief. That could destroy the ship completely. Or it could save everyone on board, Walker said firmly. Your advanced systems are dead, but basic electricity still works here. We have to try. After a tense minute, Nexus nodded. Do it. The next few hours were a race against time. Human ships rushed to attach hundreds of basic electrical generators to the alien vessel's hull. Engineers worked frantically to set up the power system. All generators in position. Tom reported, ready to start power-up sequence. Walker looked at the clock. They had 30 minutes left before the ship's atmosphere would become unbreathable. Do it. The generators hummed to life. Electricity began flowing through the massive ship's hull. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then, slowly, the ship's emergency lights began to flicker on. Basic life support systems sputtered back to life. The hull itself was acting as a giant, simple electrical circuit. It's working, Dr. Reed shouted. Environmental systems are stabilizing. The aliens were amazed. Their advanced quantum technology had failed, but simple human electricity had saved their largest ship. But they weren't done yet. Over the next 12 hours, rescue teams used the same method on other failing ships. Some ships were too far gone and had to be evacuated, but many were saved using the basic power solution. Walker watched from the control room as human ingenuity continued to find ways around seemingly impossible problems. When cables broke, astronauts used techniques learned from mountain climbing to make repairs. When power systems overloaded, engineers used old-fashioned circuit breakers to protect them. Ambassador Nexus approached Walker as they watched the rescue efforts. We have traveled to thousands of worlds, the alien said quietly. We have seen civilizations far more advanced than yours, but we have never seen anyone adapt and solve problems like humans do. Walker smiled. Sometimes being less advanced has its advantages. We're used to dealing with failures and finding workarounds. When things break, we fix them. Dr. Reed interrupted their conversation. Captain, I think we found something important. The energy drain, it's not random. There's a pattern. She pulled up a chart showing power failures across the fleet. The pattern was subtle, but it was there. The energy drain was moving in waves, like an invisible tide in space. If we can understand this pattern, Dr. Reed said excitedly, we might be able to predict where it will hit next. Maybe even figure out what's causing it. Walker felt hope rising. They had saved the biggest ship in the fleet using simple technology. Now they might have a chance to understand what was causing all this trouble in the first place. But as another alarm sounded in the distance, he knew they couldn't celebrate yet. They still had hundreds of ships to save, and the mysterious energy drain was still out there, waiting to strike again. The battle wasn't over, but humanity was proving that sometimes the simplest solutions were the best ones. Dr. Reed hadn't slept in 36 hours. She stared at the pattern on her screen until her eyes hurt. Then suddenly, she saw it. Captain Walker, she shouted, running into the main control room. I know what's happening. Look at this. She pulled up a three-dimensional map of the space around the alien fleet. Colored lines showed the waves of energy drain moving through the area. It's like a web, Walker said, leaning closer to the screen. Exactly. But not just any web. Dr. Reed's hands flew across the keyboard, adding more data to the display. It's a natural phenomenon, something we've never seen before, like a spider web made of quantum energy. The alien scientists gathered around, their large eyes fixed on the display. Ambassador Nexus spoke first. "This is why our advanced systems failed. They're being caught in this web." Tom joined them, carrying his tablet. "But look here," he pointed to different spots on the map. "Our simple electrical systems pass right through it. The web only catches complex quantum energy patterns." It was like a light bulb went on in everyone's heads at once. The aliens' advanced technology was too complex. It got tangled in the quantum web. But human technology was too simple to be caught. That's why the hull-powered ships are still working, Walker realized. Basic electricity is too primitive for this web to notice. Dr. Reed nodded excitedly. "And now that we can see the pattern, we can predict where the web is thickest. We can plot safe paths through it." The aliens were studying the data with new interest. One of their scientists spoke up. "In all our travels, we never considered that advanced technology could be a weakness. We always thought more complex meant better." Walker smiled. "On Earth, we have a saying. Keep it simple, stupid. Sometimes the best solution is the most basic one." But they weren't done yet. Dr. Reed had another idea. "What if we could protect the ships from the web completely? Create some kind of shield." "Using what?" Ambassador Nexus asked. Tom caught on to Dr. Reed's idea. "Using the same principle as the whole power system. We create a simple electrical field around each ship, like a bubble of primitive energy." The next few hours were spent testing this theory. They used small probes first, sending them into the densest parts of the quantum web. Probes with advanced shields were caught immediately, but probes surrounded by simple electrical fields passed through untouched. "It's working," Dr. Reed shouted as the test results came in. "The electrical field acts like a cloak. The quantum web can't see anything inside it." The aliens quickly agreed to try this solution on their ships. They worked alongside humans to set up simple electrical field generators around their vessels. It wasn't elegant, long cables stretched between ships. Basic generators hummed loudly, and the whole thing looked more like a construction site than a space fleet. But it worked. One by one, ships wrapped in bubbles of simple electrical energy began to power up their systems again. The quantum web slid harmlessly around them, unable to grip their now cloaked hulls. Ambassador Nexus watched in amazement as his people's advanced technology came back to life, protected by what they had once considered primitive human science. "We owe you an apology," he said to Walker. "We thought we were so far ahead of humans, but in trying to advance too quickly, we forgot the importance of simple solutions." Walker shook his head. "No apology needed. We all learned something here. You showed us what's possible with advanced technology. We showed you why it's good to remember the basics." Dr. Reed looked up from her computer. "The path through the quantum web is mapped. Once all ships are shielded, we can guide the fleet to safety." The rescue mission wasn't over yet. They still had to move hundreds of ships through the dangerous web of energy. But now they understood what they were dealing with. Human ingenuity had found a way to beat nature's trap using the simplest of solutions. Sometimes, Walker thought, being primitive wasn't such a bad thing after all. The last ship of the alien fleet cleared the quantum web on day 28 of the rescue mission. As it emerged into safe space, cheers erupted in control rooms around the Earth. They had done it. All 300 ships and their 300,000 passengers were safe. Captain Walker stood in the ISA's main control room, watching the final readings come in. The strange quantum web that had nearly spelled disaster for the alien fleet was now behind them, its pattern clearly visible on their screens. "Final report," Dr. Reed announced, her voice tired but happy. "All ships accounted for. All systems returning to normal function. No casualties." Ambassador Nexus appeared on the main screen, but this time he wasn't alone. The entire Stellar Coalition Council was with him. their blue-tinted faces showing expressions of deep respect. "People of Earth," the head of the council spoke, "you have done the impossible. You saved our people using technology we had dismissed as primitive. In doing so, you have taught us a valuable lesson in humility." Tom, who was still monitoring the electrical shield systems, grinned. "Not bad for a bunch of primitives with chemical rockets, huh?" The aliens actually laughed, a musical sound that filled the control room. "Indeed," the council head continued, "we have made a decision. Earth is hereby invited to join the Stellar Coalition, not as a junior member, but as a full partner." The room fell silent. This was huge. Humanity was being offered a seat at the table of advanced civilizations. Furthermore, Ambassador Nexus added, "We would like to establish a permanent exchange program. Your engineers will teach our people about maintaining basic systems alongside advanced technology. In return, we will share our quantum science with you." Walker stepped forward. "We would be honored. But may I ask why?" The council head's large eyes crinkled in what seemed to be a smile. "Because you showed us something we had forgotten. In our rush to advance, we abandoned simpler technologies. We became dependent on complex systems. You showed us that true advancement means keeping the best of the old while embracing the new." Over the next few hours, plans were made. The aliens would leave behind a small fleet to begin the exchange program. Earth would set up training centers where human engineers would teach the basics of mechanical and electrical systems to alien students. Dr. Reed was already excited about studying the quantum web. "Think about it," she told Walker. "We never saw it before because we didn't have advanced enough sensors. But we could pass through it because our technology was too simple. It's beautiful irony." The aliens were equally fascinated by human solutions. They studied the carbon cables, the chemical rockets, and especially the simple electrical shields that had saved their ships. Their engineers were amazed by how humans could fix complex problems with basic tools. "You know what this means," Tom said, looking at the fleet's readings one last time. "Humans aren't behind at all. We're just taking a different path. Learning to walk before we try to fly." Walker nodded. Humanity had proven itself not by matching the aliens' advanced technology, but by showing the value of understanding basic principles. Sometimes, the old ways were the best ways. As the alien fleet prepared to depart, Ambassador Nexus made one final transmission. "We came to your solar system thinking we were far superior. We leave knowing that advancement isn't just about having the newest technology. It's about wisdom in using what you have." The huge ships began to move away, their hulls still wrapped in the simple electrical fields that humans had designed. But now those fields weren't just protection. They were a reminder that sometimes the simplest solution was the best one. Walker watched them go, feeling proud of what humanity had achieved. They had saved an advanced civilization using basic technology. They had earned respect not through power, but through ingenuity. And most importantly, they had shown the galaxy that being less advanced didn't mean being less capable. Sometimes it meant being exactly what was needed. The future would be interesting, Walker thought. Very interesting indeed.